The Liberator is a 1963 biography chronicling the life of American abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, penned by John L. Thomas, a historian based at Brown University. The book's significance is underscored by its receipt of the 1964 Bancroft Prize, a prestigious accolade reserved for works exploring democracy or the history of the Americas. Thomas's academic achievements were further recognized through his reception of a Guggenheim Fellowship in 1966 and a Woodrow Wilson Fellowship in 1982. Born in 1805 in Newburyport, Massachusetts, William Lloyd Garrison's early life is marked by adversity. Abandoned by his father, Abijah, at the age of 3, he is raised by his mother, Frances. It's during this time that he begins to be known by his middle name. Despite their struggles, young Garrison contributes to the family's income by selling candy and fruit. At 13, he commences an apprenticeship at a newspaper, where he writes articles under a pen name. In 1826, his apprenticeship concludes, and he partners with printer Isaac Knapp to establish their own newspaper, the Free Press. Through this venture, Garrison crosses paths with renowned abolitionist John Greenleaf Whittier. At the age of 25, Garrison becomes deeply involved in the anti-slavery movement, initially joining the American Colonization Society, which advocates for African American resettlement on Africa's west coast. Garrison eventually distances himself from this group and publicly acknowledges his misjudgment. Garrison's engagement with the newspaper Genius of Universal Emancipation, led by Benjamin Lundy, propels him further into the abolitionist cause. Garrison's role evolves from writer to co-editor, as he takes on the newspaper's daily operations, allowing Lundy to focus on anti-slavery speaking tours. As the two collaborate, their differing perspectives emerge, Garrison championing immediate emancipation, while Lundy advocates a more gradual approach. Despite these differing views, their partnership persists, and they continue to express their beliefs through the newspaper's editorials. Lloyd files a report on a slave trader in Massachusetts who was unlawfully transporting slaves to New Orleans, flouting transatlantic slave trade laws. The trader, Francis Todd, retaliates by launching a libel lawsuit against Lloyd. Despite Todd's efforts, Lloyd triumphs in court, but rather than complying with the imposed fine, he chooses imprisonment, refusing to pay. Consequently, he is sentenced to a 6-month jail term. After 7 weeks behind bars, Arthur Tappan, a steadfast supporter of Lloyd, pays the fine, securing his release. This episode prompts Lloyd to depart from Baltimore. Returning to Massachusetts, Lloyd embarks on a new endeavor by founding a newspaper called The Liberator in 1831. His unwavering stance advocating for the immediate eradication of slavery often lands him in precarious situations. For instance, his position becomes even more contentious when Nat Turner's slave rebellion erupts in Virginia 6 months after the Liberator's debut. In North Carolina, Lloyd faces legal repercussions, as a grand jury indicts him on charges related to distributing inflammatory materials. Convicted in absentia, a substantial $5,000 reward is offered for anyone capable of apprehending and transporting him to North Carolina for trial. Championing women's political participation, Lloyd urges women to unite and petition against slavery. He establishes the New England Anti-Slavery Society in the early 1830s, which encourages women to actively join the cause. As the organization gains momentum and evolves into distinct local groups across cities and states, several women-led groups emerge. This division within the New England Society prompts some men, including Arthur Tappan, to exit and establish their own organization. Ironically, Tappan had previously intervened to secure Lloyd's release from imprisonment in Baltimore. In 1835, a pro-slavery mob surrounds Lloyd's Boston offices. Initially demanding the British abolitionist George Thompson, who is not present, they then target Lloyd himself. Escaping through a rear window, Lloyd is identified by the mob and subsequently apprehended with the intent to subject him to tarring and feathering. The intervention of Boston's mayor leads to Lloyd's arrest for his own safety. By the early 1860s, The Liberator boasts an extensive readership spanning the northern states, along with Canada and Scotland. With the passing of the 13th Amendment in 1865, Lloyd releases the final edition of his newspaper. Following the abolition of slavery, he takes steps to dissolve the Anti-Slavery Society. Some members, including Wendell Phillips, advocate for its continuation until equitable political and social rights are secured for Black individuals, on par with their white counterparts. However, Lloyd believes that the Anti-Slavery Society has accomplished its unique mission and opts to disband the organization. Throughout the remainder of his life, he remains dedicated to supporting various social movements, including advocating for women's rights and civil rights for Black people. The year 1876 marks a somber moment as Lloyd's wife, Helen, succumbs to pneumonia. Her funeral is attended by numerous of Lloyd's fellow abolitionists and friends. In pursuit of a connection with Helen, Lloyd turns to attending spiritualist circles. Despite his declining health, he perseveres in his desire to communicate with her beyond the realm of the living. Unfortunately, Lloyd's health deteriorates, and he ultimately passes away in 1879 due to kidney disease. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.